How much does a quality roofing SEO marketing company cost, and what should they do for you?
First of all, when you're just starting out, you kind of need, for marketing to be effective, the kind of thing we do, you can't be at the starting line. You need to be a little further along. You need to have a Google business profile with a
website,
with a what's the word I'm looking for? Verified address.
Verified.
And you need to have at least a basic website which is connected properly to the Google business profile, and work on getting some reviews. Have at least 30, maybe 50?
Right now, I'd say if somebody has 40, 50 reviews and has been online for a year, we can help them. If you're a roofer starting out, don't go out and spend a ton of money in this time frame unless you have money to do so with.
Right.
And I don't think it's dumb either. If somebody had a lot of money going, it is not dumb to get the best marketing from the get-go, but 95% of you guys don't. And so you build up and have faith that you're going to be able to get going. You'll start up and get your verified Google map. You'll get your website hook up. You'll tell Google you're a roofer.
But keep in mind, if you do start out and get really good marketing and pay money for it, the fact that you're brand new puts you back a couple of steps.
Yeah.
Your marketing company, whether it's us or anybody else, can do everything right. You can do everything right. And just the fact of being brand new, it's just going to take a little longer.
Which is why we want them to come to us with...
Yeah, because otherwise if they come to us brand new, they don't want to pay for the amount of time that it takes for Google to decide to trust them.
You know, I would say that if you're trusted and you get great quality services like Roofing Webmasters and Data Pins, I'm going to call it 4 months to happiness.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you won't get a lead in the first week. It means it'll take you about 4 months to get happy.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost something for it. I tell people we're in Texas, not in California, not in New York. We do cost something. We're less than if we were in those locations. But you need to work on this stuff. You should want to do. I'll stop and talk about SEO for a minute again. I just talked to a guy in roofing right before we walked in here. He had grown his company millions and spent 10% of his budget on marketing, which was an astounding amount of money, over $400,000 spent in marketing.
Yeah, when you told me how many reviews he had and kind of where he was, I guessed 50,000 minimum, and it was significantly higher.
It's a shocking amount for a roofer, and the reason I'll tell this story real quick because we're talking about how much does it cost for quality SEO marketing. And I didn't tell you some other components about this. He was half a mile or half an hour from another state. He's in the mid-market area where there's a lot of smaller towns.
Okay.
And he was going for 2 states on the website, which is basically a non-localized experience, which will hurt your rankings.
Yeah. Well, unless you're in one of those weird cities that straddles a state line.
Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City, stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to be like right on it for it not to cause a problem. But having said that, so he had his website up. He had some decent reviews. He'd gotten another location, and it was all workable. But he'd spent over $400,000 on paid stuff. And
I was about to say that had to be paid.
And was still like, weighing his options on whether he should do organic. And I'm like, man, like this is not a small thing. It's Google. Like, it's huge. And his organic was not working, And so you're talking about money spent on almost every paid item there is and not spending money on the organic. Now that he was qualified, had enough reviews, had enough time online, and had built the company around this stuff and was trying to ponder this issue. And I don't think...
I mean, props to him for being willing to spend money for marketing.
Agreed. Yeah.
But oddly enough, he didn't have to spend that much. He could have gotten those results with organic.
Most likely.
Much less money.
Yeah, probably could take that money, cut it by, honestly, I'm going to say cut it by at least 50%, but maybe up to 75%.
Yeah.
And then redirect that back into organic optimization and SEO, show up in a large swath of area. And and this particular guy, I didn't hate social media Meta or maybe even Google ads for him, which I think most places don't make any money anymore.
Right.
because it was a smaller compilation of cities, probably a little less competition. Maybe the lead didn't cost as much. You're doing LSA that and everything else.
Yeah.
And so the point is this, though. You need to be able to go into Google, Bing, ChatGPT, Gemini AI, the map rankings, organic keyword rankings, reputation reviews, all these things, and do as much as you can to show up in organic rankings. And to this day, if you go and check in any area, you'll find the largest people doing this.
Yeah. We've said it many times. Organic should be the first thing you go for. That's the first consideration.
It's the first one.
Paid should be the fill-in later.
Yeah, and he still wasn't the biggest guy in town. And if I had to guess, there were a couple of bigger ones, and I had to guess they were probably domination on Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably spent almost nothing comparatively to the budget.
Right.
I would guess less than 10%, 10% or so of that at max.
Yeah.
For the other ones. So, all right. So we said, what would they do for you? Guys, start, have faith, have a website, have a verified Google GBP. You won't get much from it, but you will begin to get credibility from Google. You will begin to show up in rankings. And so have faith that you're going to show up and send those signals, get those reviews, get that website.
Right.